Oh, two seconds. Hello there, Ginger League, and welcome to another version of. Is this Vicious Villains or is this Super Fights?
This is Super Fights, man. This is the
This is
most
Super Fights.
this is the most child-friendly one that we have.
It really is. It's the most child-friendly one, and yet we're going to be swearing. So.
Oh yeah, of
Too bad the
course.
kids can't watch it.
Yeah. Well, don't worry. Like my kids were watching what the ones that I'm fighting for today, and I was like, instead of just like trying to rest, I was taking notes like on everything. Of course, of course, when what we're doing this, of course, I have to be the one that has to try and beat a girl, which really sucks. Because I'm like the old-fashioned chivalrous guy. I'm like, no. When she's a lovely person as well. She's an author, poet, stand-up comedian, JD Stephans. JD, how are you, my dear?
Hey, I'm doing really good. I'm doing really good, but don't let my gender fool you, because number one, I am gender fluid, and
Hey.
number two, gender doesn't mean anything. I'm gonna kick your butt.
Fighting spirit, I like it. I like it.
To be fair, you do only have one win under your belt throughout all of these.
Mm-hmm. Well,
I've got what, 2, 3.
You've got two.
I've got 2 wins and 3 loses. So.
In fairness, you've played more than me. Like actually, wait, we'll need to do the count. Like, because this will actually be going up before my win because of the way the running order's going. Because like we were meant to have JD on a little while ago, sadly, like we were unable to. Like, so I want to make sure that we get hers on, quite quickly. So at this moment, as far as the audience knows, I'm still a winless virgin. So we are going up. It's the battle of the superheroes, our super fights, and it's going to be for basically the toddler to kids edition. Because JD is fighting for the Powerpuff Girls, and I am fighting for PJ Masks. This really came from inspiration because my kids were watching. We had a Cartoon Network DVD that we got handed down. And they started watching the Powerpuff Girls episode on it, and they just kept repeating. And now they've been finding like the newer episodes on their YouTube Kids and watching them as well. And I'm like, light bulb, this is a good idea. Yeah. So JD, like the fact that you were so willing to come on and fight for Powerpuff Girls, I was like, you dancer. This will be good.
Thank you. Yeah. I grew up with that. So.
Yeah, so did I as well. Like, and Kev did as well. Because you're only like a couple of years older than me, man.
Aye.
But so we all kind of grew up in that kind of era. A lot of like Powerpuff Girls, Johnny Bravo, Dexter's Lab. Dexter's Lab was one of the ones I liked because obviously Ginger and Specky, kind of like me.
Aww.
But I love Johnny Bravo because I was like, it was such a 2000s show. It was like there's no way that would get made like nowadays. He's basically like Elvis, but even more predatory. Like, just has the whole like 50s style, like the trendy boy kind of thing, but he's just completely out of place. And yeah, it was some interestingly dark humor when I watched it back. And I was like, it starts off in the episode I watched, it was like two possums. And the sun was going out to play, and they're like, no, don't go out there, son, because the humans will get you and turn you into a pie. And he's like, really? No, I'm only kidding. On you go. Then it cuts to the person serving a possum pie to Johnny Bravo, and it was the kid. And I'm like, Jesus Christ, man. Oh my, it was crazy. But that's the era we grew up in.
Yep.
It is.
So I'll go over the rules for this one before we jump in. So we have 3 genres that we fight under for our respective teams. The first one is cultural relevance, which is how they have impacted on pop culture and the general media zeitgeist. Then the second round is abilities, physical and mental. So that's a straight up who would win in a fight. And that's why I also thought PJ Masks and Powerpuff Girls were good because it's 3-on-3.
Okay.
And then the final round, and I always love this one, even though I get my ass handed to me at it every time, it is universal significance. And that is, if you took your respective superheroes out of their world, how would that world cope without them? So like, if you took, So, for example, if the Powerpuff Girls didn't have the chemical X and they were just ordinary girls, would we still have all these villains? Like if the PJ Masks, just what were never conceived, would it just be a bunch of like toddlers like taking over this small town?
They wouldn't survive without them.
Yeah, I think there would be a lot of problems on either side, but obviously it's not up to myself or JD to judge. It is up to Kevin. Kevin will be deciding on what based on who gives the best arguments, and it's not about personal opinion. It's just who straight up does the best argument. So, so Kev, you ready?
I'm ready.
JD, you ready?
Yeah, let's do it. Let's do it.
Let's jump into round one, which is cultural relevance.
Okay.
So JD, as you are the guest, you get first go. So how do you feel that the Powerpuff Girls have impacted pop culture and the media zeitgeist?
Okay, so you have female superheroes. You didn't see a lot of women superheroes that you could look up to. I mean, you have Wonder Woman, of course, you have Supergirl, but back in that day, you didn't have a lot of beyond DC and maybe Marvel, like a couple of Marvel things, but even then, like Marvel didn't really start to do their shows until later, I think. It was something for girls to look up to. As a woman, I was excited. I was like, girls kicking ass. I'm for this. I'm so for this.
Definitely. And like you said, like Marvel was 2008, Powerpuff Girls were, I think, like 99, 2000. So it was definitely before like the MCU was a thing. DC had started to tail off as well. They'd had their disaster with Batman and Robin. So having that Batgirl as the last kind of female representation of Alicia Silverstone was not the best note to go out on.
Exactly.
So having those Powerpuff Girls, and yeah, they did kick a lot of ass.
They did.
Yeah.
And
yeah. Did you see that they were trying to do that, like kind of, make it in a CW show? Like they had Chloe, I think it was Chloe Bennett, her name is, like who was in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. She was picked to be starring in it. Donald Faison from Scrubs, he was meant to be Professor Utorium, so their dad. Well, but sadly the pilot never got picked up. So I wonder what direction they were planning on taking that in. Did you hear anything about it over on your end? If there's any word about it?
I had never heard about that, but I will tell you, I'm kind of glad because sometimes the CW is miss for me. Like sometimes they get it right. Okay, Arrow is phenomenal, but sometimes you're just like, come on, guys.
Yeah. So that actually brings me to an interesting question because, like on my show, as you were a guest on, like I love my tangents. So, how do you feel about the Batwoman show that the CW done?
I actually haven't seen the Batwoman show on the CW. So.
I know it's quite ironic because they were trying to like push it for like like a female audience and then like an LGBTQ representation, and anybody I've talked to of either of those persuasions have not seen it. It's all been straight white guys.
I heard that Ruby Rose originally starred. I don't know if she came back for season 2. I had heard there was some controversy with her. Yeah. I did not, or I want to say them, or I think Ruby actually has chosen to transition. So I want to make sure I'm getting the pronouns right. So I'll use them for now, but I believe it actually might be he, him.
Right.
But I know that Ruby was used as representation. I thought that was really cool, but I never saw it because it's CW, and it takes a lot for me to willingly watch CW.
Yeah, there was apparently like the first season had it was hit and miss, but overall a hit. And then the actor that played Batwoman, I was like, because I don't want to mess up my pronouns, so I'll just say the actor that played them. Took a really bad injury on set, like really badly damaged her back. What?
Mhm.
There we go. And they are just used the pronoun. Sorry. What? Okay. Well, I'm an absolute idiot. But yeah. So back injury. They were wanting the actor to come back. Well, within the space of like a fortnight or something. Well, after this actor had almost broken their back, and was just like, I'm out, done. So I could totally understand that from an actor's perspective for safety reasons.
Yeah.
But do you think, like, if the Powerpuff Girls hadn't been as successful as it was, because it was one of Cartoon Network's like main staples at the time, and then when it went off, and it's the only one that's really had like a good revival from what I've seen. Do you think if that hadn't actually been so successful, we might not have the kind of more the female representation of superheroes that we've got now?
I think that it paved the way definitely for Marvel and DC to see that girls do sell, right? Like, because you didn't have just girls watching that. I mean, you watched it and you're a guy. So, and guys were like, girls can kick ass. I'm into this, right? And I think that was definitely, I think it was a pivotal moment for them to look into understanding that women can sell, that it's worth looking into.
And I particularly liked it as well because like the leader of the Powerpuff Girls was ginger. So I was like, not only is we having female representation, but a redhead is the leader and kicking ass. I was so down for that. Watching a redhead beat up like a monkey with a giant brain, which was Mojo Jojo, was just fantastic for me. I was like, it was like I was on crack. It was brilliant.
Amazing.
Yeah, and it was one of the things that I particularly liked about Powerpuff Girls as well. It was original. It wasn't like a cut and paste of a lot of things. Like I know they done the kind of Avengers parody on Dexter's Lab, which was like Major Glory and like a purple version of what Hulk. He was called Kronk or something like that. But they had more original characters and more original villains, and I always thought that was really fascinating.
Yes, I loved the villains. I also thought there was a lot of queer representation that we don't talk about. The big red character.
Yeah, the one that kind of looked like a feminine devil or something like that.
Yeah.
But her artwork was terrifying. Gave me nightmares, and I was like 14. Tell you that is what you would call a danger wank these days.
Yeah, the character is called him. And by the way, I looked up Ruby's pronouns. So Ruby identifies as gender neutral or gender fluid. So they, them.
Right, they, them. Okay. Well, so yep. They, them. I apologize for being.
Oh no, that's fine.
I always have to make sure, like, because I want everybody to feel safe in any shows that I do. Is like I always say that I don't care if you're a man, woman, or a toaster. Like as long as you're nice to me, I'm nice to you. Like same kind of deal. So always, because I was interviewing somebody recently and identified as queer, and I'd said him, and I apologized afterwards, and they were like, "Don't worry, it's okay." And I'm like, "Yeah, but it's the whole point is we're trying to learn and grow. So I don't want to take a step back in that way." So I would say, for Powerpuff Girls, they did have a big impact culturally. PJ Masks, even though it's been a shorter time, has still had quite a big impact. Because I know the majority of the superheroes are male. There is obviously Owlette, but there's a very interesting kind of anti-hero villain, Luna Girl in it, and she's really good because she doesn't always totally play to the villain side. She doesn't always totally play to the hero side. She's just that wee kind of grey area, or silver, because her hair's kind of silvery color. And she's basically just she'll just go which way the wind blows. If the bad guys are doing better, she's like, okay, I'm over with them. If the good guys doing better, which let's face it, it's a kid's show, 99% of the time they are. So it's like, okay, I'm over with you guys. So I wouldn't say it's had PJ Masks has had the same longevity, but it has made an impact, mainly probably because Disney has just steamrolled the competition with everything. But at the same time, they've done a lot of programs where you just watch them and you're like, okay, they're clearly just there to just be filler, but what they actually take their time letting PJ Masks, and they've started kind of building a world around it, introducing like kind of more villains that I was like, my boys are like, Daddy, who's that? Because they're not in like the play set. And I'm like, I have no idea. Let me watch it and find out. So if anything, that sums it up as well. Like what it's got me kind of interested in it to the point where I've actually been creating fan fiction in my own head of like a PJ Masks movie where they're older and one of them dies as well. And I'm like, yeah, there. That's how you know it's had like an impact, like not just on a like a kind of just a base level, but like on it's actually impacted, because I was like, I could so think of like a, you know what, remember the Power Rangers like kind of fan dub movie they done, but the really gritty one?
Aye.
Yeah, the one that was on YouTube and it had James Van Der Beek in it. And that was and that was really, really good. It was like same kind of premise like, of tone for me thinking about a PJ Masks movie, as they're growing up and how they're dealing with all that. And I was like, okay, it's either A, I have no life, or B, it's actually resonated with me. I'll go for a combination of the two.
The one thing that I will say, though, that the Powerpuff Girls has on PJ Masks is it happened in a time before. How do I put this? It happened in a time when. It happened in a time when it was safe for cartoons to say things that they can't say now. Like you had adult themes, you had things that were addressed that you just don't see in kids' entertainment anymore.
Yeah, like that mayor, that like Monopoly Man mayor and his side piece as well. All you saw was like, you know, like the chest and legs and like some red hair. You were like, that was that. You're like, okay, clearly something's going on there. Well, that was more for like the adults to be, you know, having a giggle about rather than anybody else. And also, and full credit to Professor Gutonium, like raising 3 girls on your own with superpowers. That's a tough job. It's like, imagine them go when they got to teenage years and he's like, right, girls, time for bed. They'll be like, no, blast. Well, we're sleeping in your room tonight, Dad, just because we can. Yeah. That would be.
They actually tackled mental illness as well, which I want to say it was. I believe they used Buttercup to do that in one of the episodes, and I loved that. I loved that they were willing to have that and open up that dialogue, and you see that, but you don't really see it in children's programming anymore.
Yeah, yeah, definitely, and that's probably where like the kind of edge over PJ Masks, you've got that edge over it, because it's like your cookie cutter kind of Disney show. Like it is for like kind of, you know, 3 and up, but doesn't have the same kind of impact as other shows, like for example like the Disney done, which was like Kim Possible, where they actually had a bit more of a story and a bit more kind of like good themes behind it. There's always like, as I always call it, the 3 strike formula, where they'll mess up something 3 times before they learn a lesson and then say time to be a hero, and then learn their lesson and save the day kind of thing. So it is more grounded for the kind of like the baby toddler mark, whereas Powerpuff Girls was for a better audience, which meant it was like a more mature audience, which meant they got to tackle better themes as well.
You said Kim, and my mind immediately went to Shigo. I don't know why, but Shigo is considered a queer icon.
Nice.
Like, at least for me. And I don't know if Shigo was actually queer, but a lot of us want Shigo to be queer.
So, is that called like shipping these days? You know, just wanting a character to be something. Is it shipping you call it these days? I genuinely don't know.
I think shipping is like when you're like, I want this character to be with me. I think that's when you like relationship them up.
Fair enough. Learn something new every day.
The question you have to ask though is, if there wasn't Powerpuff Girls, would there have been PJ Masks?
Oh, I don't think so. Actually.
You're meant to be impartial, you prick.
I'm just asking a question. I'm asking a question.
The truth comes out.
Well, I know. I'm just ticked because even on a panel, you still Nick Cage moment me.
It's what I do.
Yeah, definitely. But I would have to say I think it still would happen. Maybe just it wouldn't be as inclusive as it is. Like, I don't think they would have such a strong female anti-hero, or like as strong like a female superhero in that lineup. She might be the weaker one, whereas she's probably the strongest out of the three of them, which I'll dive into in abilities later on.
Cool.
So, I mean, obviously, I can't be the judge. That's Kev's job. I think it's pretty clear. I think we know which side it's coming down on.
I had to get the question out there, but I think the first round does have to go to Powerpuff Girls based on the argument.
Definitely. Well, I can't. I don't know if I'm trying to find a thunderous applause like kind of sound effect, so I'll just do the dolphin clap just now.
I would know PJ Masks did put up a good fight. So
yeah, that's purely because my kids watch it on a daily basis. So I'm like, right, what? Just wait till we get to abilities, and then I'll be like, okay, I'm coming for you.
Yeah, they don't have so many abilities, so you're probably going to kick my butt on that.
Yeah. Well, currently you are 1-0 up on your debut, and in fairness, that's a really good feat. You argued very strongly, and got me to think of other points as well around it. So when you're getting your opposition to go, actually, she's got a point here, it's pretty much set.
Thank you.
Yeah. So congratulations on winning round 1, which is cultural relevance. We will dive into round 2, which is abilities. So in this round for abilities, we look at the physical and mental capabilities of each superhero and see who would win in a straight up fight between the Powerpuff Girls and PJ Masks. Now, I know you said that you thought Powerpuff Girls don't really have like a lot of superpowers, but I actually kind of disagree, because I think they're super strong, they're super fast, they can kick some amount of ass. They do have like a lot of good superpowers in them, at least from the ones that I remember anyway.
Yeah.
It was
they have that. They don't have a lot of like unique abilities though, so that's where they're going to be lacking. So they do have like the typical super strength, super speed. You know, Blossom has her eyes, and but Buttercup, right?
Yeah, Buttercup.
No, it's Blossom. Blossom has the fire.
Yes. I'm just trying to think. I think you're right. Apologies. It's just I was too busy trying to do my own research to make sure that I was like PJ Masks abilities. I just need to make sure that they were all in my head more than anything else. I probably still forgotten some. It's the same kind of deal. That's where I think, where I personally think like I've got the upper hand, because they all have at least 3 individual powers each. From the get go, they actually got more powers, I think, in the second season, but I can't remember for the life of me what most of them were. I know Catboy had got what was called like cat stripes, which is basically, you know, taking a cat stripe and like whacking somebody with it, essentially like a lightning bolt. So like Gecko he's got the super Gecko muscles, so he's got super strength, he's got camouflage as well. Owlette has her owl wing wing, she has her owl eyes. She can actually use like the feathers on her costume. She can essentially use them as like daggers. That's what I was thinking. Like, you know, if this was an actual like more grown-up cartoon, she could be using them to stab people. Yep, you're dead straight away. And then they have Catboy. He's always got the super cat speed, and he's got cat ears, which is like super hearing as well. And then the aforementioned kind of cat stripes too. They're always learning from their powers as well, like learning that, you know, just because you're strong, doesn't mean that, you know, you can easily beat someone else, because if someone got strength as well, what other skills would you have to beat them? Like, so for example, if Gecko was getting his ass kicked, he could use his camouflage and be like, right, all right, creep away, go behind, boom, knock him out. Owlette, she's got the owl eye, so she can see for miles ahead, so she knows danger's coming and is like, right, okay, we got to watch out for this. What PJ Masks obviously super cat speed. Like he can be like, he's essentially like their version of the Flash, but you know, not as cool. And he's got a car. He has a cat car, obviously because of merchandise reasons, but still. So like Catboy's got a cat car. Gecko's got the Gecko Mobile, which was which that kind of, it can go underwater as well as on land, just like a gecko. And Owlette's got an owl glider as well, which is for for everybody that doesn't have aerial capabilities, to join her in the air. Yeah, and they always seem.
Sorry,
go
ahead. No, go.
It's like because like when they do have to come together to fight like a bad guy, for someone that is kind of too strong for them, their powers can gel quite well together. Well, I've seen a couple of episodes where they've had to practice like a move between all their powers, and use that to take someone down. And it's pretty cool. They've also got they can also drive, which is something that Powerpuff Girls can't do. So because not only have they got their cars and their gliders, they have in the later series they've got a bus as well, which also is like a wee kind of a wee mini fortress, and they've got a big fortress as well, which is full of different stuff. And they actually did a surprising wee bit of lore with it, which I was surprised about, because they had essentially they had these totems that gave gave them their powers, and these just they shut down kind of one day. Just couldn't, so they didn't have any powers. They had to just rely on themselves being just being heroes to take down the villains. And when they done it, turned out it was like a test. So not only did they get their powers back, that was when they got their new abilities. And I thought, this is very Power Rangers Zordon kind of esque, except without the big floaty head. It was just like these wee monoliths, just essentially being like, okay, you passed that test, here's some more powers for you. So it was like Gecko got a shield, Catboy get cat stripes, Owlette, like you said, she had the feather kind of daggers as well. So there was plenty going around with that one, which was, like I said, for a show that's aimed at babies and toddlers, surprising amount of detail.
That actually is pretty cool. That is one thing that any cartoon from back in the day is going to be lacking a little bit, is detail.
And fairness, I think where the PJ Masks have the upper hand is this, the sense of continuity, where they have more chance to be able to go back and go, right, well, there was something from a previous episode, let's expand on that and kind of move it forward. They did have that with ones like Powerpuff Girls, and they did follow sometimes a more episode a week, similar to like a Star Trek kind of thing. We'd have or a supernatural monster of the week kind of style. But they still laid little bits in. I remember one of the episodes I watched, and it was Mojo Jojo. It turned out that Professor Utonium was his dad as well. And they're like, what? And they're like, but it was because he was his lab assistant. So when he created the Powerpuff Girls, he got hit with it as well and got super intelligence rather than superpowers. So he did give me superpowers like them, and they're all like, no way. And he's like, okay, because it's my fault. So gives them the superpowers combined of all three of them, and obviously he just kicks everybody's ass. But the way they kind of beat him was, it wasn't through strength, it was through mental, because he remembered that he was his lab assistant, but he was a horrible lab assistant who caused him to knock into the chemical X formula, which created the Powerpuff Girls superheroes. So he just has a total mental breakdown. He's like, I created them. I'm responsible for these people that I'm trying to kill, blah, blah, blah. And while he's in this pure shock, that's when they just get him back over, take all his powers away and just go, see ya. When he's pure having a big existential crisis. And I'm like, wow, that shit got deep really fast.
I will say this. Okay. So you also have the fact that they can fly. And I looked this up. They're immune to heat and cold. So I feel like that is an ability, and they can breathe in space.
Yeah, that's definitely something. That is definitely something. Because PJ Masks still have to, their tower can essentially turn into a rocket, but they can't breathe in space. Well, that's and didn't didn't actually know it. They were resistant to essentially temperature.
Yeah, I looked that up really quick. They are heat and cold resistant. But what's interesting is I know I've seen them shiver before in episodes. So I'm like, are you sure? But it says they're heat and cold resistant.
So again, it's like something that could be in the continuity that we're talking about. Like, you know, they're heat and cold resistant, but you've seen them shiver.
Yeah, it's like they can survive if you pour lava on them for an episode, but all of a sudden it's 68 degrees. One of them's gonna need a jacket.
Oh man, that's brilliant. That's and it's so ironic as well. Like, considering one of them's a redhead and they're resistant to heat.
Yeah, that's just impossible. That would never happen.
No, not for me. Definitely not. Like, my skin's made of Teflon when it comes to the sun.
I am anti-heat resistant as well. So I went to San Diego Comic-Con for a few years, and 1 year I hit heat exhaustion and I didn't notice it because my skin became cold.
Wow.
And then I hit heat stroke.
Yeah.
And I that because I started to have blacking out. But I'm such a nerd that all I did was go back with my roommates, take a cold shower and a nap, and go back.
Wow. That's not a fact. You're a nerd. Are you sure that you're not one of the Powerpuff Girls who grown up for him?
Well, actually, I didn't know how to, but yeah.
You know what? It's like it just turned out like I'm actually say, oh, I'm taking on with the Powerpuff Girls, and you go, yeah, I actually am one. You are going to die. I'm going to fly over from America and kill you. I gotta say, like the little points there that you brought up, the fact that they can breathe in space as well. Well, that's definitely ones I was not expecting in this fight. Between between the two, and I thought I had the abilities wrapped up, and then you came out with, oh, they can breathe in space, motherfucker. What? Do you think we could count that as a Nick Cage moment, Kev?
I think you could probably count that as one.
Right. Well, the GIF will go in. What the picture of Nick Cage was a Nick Cage moment. Well, I would say so. Yeah. What?
Oh, here's another. Yeah. Oh, sorry. Go ahead. I didn't mean to interrupt.
I was please don't double Nick Cage me. Don't double cage me.
Well, okay. Here's another ability that they have. Check this out.
Right.
They're really kind, and they tend to win over the villains half the time. Have you ever noticed, some of the time they just kind of win them over with their kindness?
Matt's more kind of like for, I would say, Buttercup's kind of strength. It's like she kills them with kindness more than anything else, because you couldn't see Bubbles trying to kill them with kindness because she's got too much fight in her. Well, I was going to say,
so sweet, so cute.
Yeah, it's like the one that I'm just like, so what? Because I was going to say, she's got too much spunk in her, but yeah, because we're talking about a kids show about the female superheroes, and they mentioned that word. Yeah, that's gonna get me cancelled. Yeah. It was not intended in that way, but she's got a bit of fight about her. She's like, I'll just take no prisoners and I'll just batter you. One obviously Blossom's like the leader. She's more level-headed for them both, where the other one's got the more childlike innocence that would win them over with the puppy dog eyes and you're not actually going to do that, would you? What? And then they go, oh, not really. And she goes, psych, bang. Just see that happen. So, the second round, I've got to say, has been a good one. Well, obviously, it's up to Kev to make the decision of who wins it.
This is a tough one. I'd say.
As I would not like to be in your shoes right now, buddy.
It usually is you. I'd probably say, based on the arguments, PJ Masks have to win this one.
Whoa!
All right, good job.
This is the first as well where I've survived a Nick Cage moment.
You did survive a Nick Cage moment.
Whoa!
The next one probably just gave me enough to be equal.
Yeah. Well, in fairness, like for anybody that is not aware of the Nick Cage moment, this originated in the very first episode when me and Kev fought between Deadpool and Batman. And Kev pulled out a bit of facts that involved Ghost Rider to win the Deadpool argument. And I said, you Nick Caged me, because Nick Cage was Ghost Rider. And that's just essentially become a thing going forward. The Nick Cage moment, it's like the trump card. Well, for everybody to go like, oh, well, I'm on the back fence here. I'll either play you straight back into the game, or in some cases, as what happened with Christopher John Steven, well, it just absolutely wipes the floor with you. And there's like, it's essentially like the ultimate combo move.
Yep.
So that's pretty good. So we are at one apiece. Well, thank you, PJ Masks, and thank you to my kids for making me watch all of them so I could actually know their abilities. So now we come on to the third and final round, and that is universal significance. This is where if you took your respective superheroes out of their universes, how would that universe cope without them? Would it be better? Would it be worse? Well, let's discuss. JD, how do you think that the city of Townsville and Professor Utonium would cope without the Powerpuff Girls?
Oh God. So are we talking about a situation where they never existed, or a situation where all of a sudden they don't?
Where they never existed.
Where they never exist. So we know for a fact that without them, he was actually kind of cold. So, I mean, he created Mojo Jojo and then abandoned Mojo Jojo for the, I don't know if he abandoned them for the girls, but like, I mean, he was an abandoned experiment, right?
Yeah. It was basically a case of abandonment, because the girls came along, they warmed his heart, and he noticed like their abilities, and Mojo Jojo just felt shunned and isolated. So it was, and he couldn't remember them, couldn't remember Mojo Jojo when the girls came along. So when he brought it up,
girls, right?
Yeah. So when he brought it up, what Mojo Jojo had said that, Professor Utonium was my father, and they're like, is this true? And he's like, I don't remember. It's like, because I don't remember anything before like you girls came into my life. It's like, I have a vague recollection of a lab assistant. That was it. And then it's not until, the girls are basically like, near death, where Mojo is kicking their asses, that he remembers everything that kind of happened, because he's just lying there going like, Mojo Jojo, please stop. And then it kind of triggers the memory of him having to say that to him in the past because he was a bad assistant. And then it's just like, okay, go time. And you see the coldness in him like straight away, just like wanting to tear him down. I'm like, whoa, this guy gets skills.
I would say without the girls, he was on par to be like a villain, right? Like, I mean, look at what he's creating now. He happened to create something that had warmth and heart and kindness, but that could have gone the other way, and we know he's not going to stop experimenting. So without creating the heroes that he did, he probably would have created something that destroyed the world. Now you have the mayor, who's an idiot. That's not going to help anything.
Yeah, that's just art imitating life, isn't
it? Yeah, art. Yeah, life imitated art in this situation, and very sad. Miss Bellum is the most intelligent person in all of Townsville, more so than Professor Yu. I love Miss Bellum. But I feel like she would just be sitting there like, we are so fucked, without because you have all these villains that would take over, and Professor Yu probably wouldn't have given to. He probably would have been a part of it, to be honest, because he was cold without them. He was a very different person. He was self-involved. He was, I don't know. I just see him going the route of a villain without the girls. So
also brings me to, since we're on the hypothetical train, what I'm like. So See if he'd done the experiment to create the perfect little girls, but instead created boys, how do you think his attitude would have changed towards them? Because there's still the thing where, well, when you have boys, you feel like as a dad that you have to teach them about, being tough and surviving in the world and all that, stereotypes, which I personally don't believe in, but at the time they were still being reinforced. Whereas when you have again, stereotypes from back then, when you had a girl, the dad could be a bit softer and play dolls with them and all that, get dressed up in makeup, all that kind of stuff. Do you think that maybe that kind of art would have imitated life, and if it was Powerpuff Boys, they could have essentially turned into the boys?
I'm so glad you brought that. So they actually created the Rowdy Rough Boys, if you remember them. They were the their equivalent of them, but they were created by Mojo Jojo, not Professor U. So I feel like they still could have been created. Well, actually, because he created them literally to offset the Powerpuff Girls. So I don't think that Professor U really wanted kids. He accidentally did it,
Yeah. He just kind of it was like, okay, I made the mess, I got to step up to the plate.
Exactly.
That's where I think, because it was Powerpuff Girls, and I'm speaking from a different time. Well, I think because it was wrote as Powerpuff Girls, it's more understandable why his heart would soften. Whereas what a dad still feels like at that time, if they had boys, they've got to be a bit kind of tougher. My kind of take would be that if he'd done that, because Mojo Jojo would have still been his lab assistant, I think Mojo Jojo would have turned them against Professor Utonium. And they would have went with Mojo Jojo, and we just would have had essentially the Rowdy Rough Boys, but in a different kind of style.
Okay. I also feel like a lot of things would have just been so different without them, right? Have you seen season 3 at all of Umbrella Academy?
I've not seen it yet. I have also checked the reviews and things like that, and it's, from what I've heard, it's surpassed the other 2 seasons.
Yes. So I just started watching it last night, and I will tell you what I've seen. Like we all know, they end up back in their original house, right? And he's replaced them essentially.
Yeah.
So I feel like, and he was a lot colder. He was always cold, but somehow he seemed colder without them.
Yeah.
I feel like it would have been that type of situation where you can't really replicate a person's kindness, their personality, right? Like everything that made him kind was them.
Yeah. I would have to agree with that, actually. It would have been the umbrella Utonium. Essentially, the way it went. So, because with PJ Masks, if you took the 3 of them out of that that program, they never existed. But I do still think that there would be a hero that would step up and take the place. Because in later series, they've introduced, it's kind of like an Egyptian kind of hero, but it's more in tune with Egyptian mythology and all that kind of stuff. There is one. He's essentially looks like an armadillo. But he just doesn't have the skills to be a hero, but he is good. So he just keeps messing up, but he's trying to learn. So I think he would be more of a kind of a diamond in the rough kind of style. But I also think that the character I mentioned, Luna Girl, I think she would wind up being a hero. Because there would be a void of someone to kind of step up. And she's got that inner steel about her. She's very tough, she's very assured, knows what she's doing. Her friends are moths. They can be the most annoying little shits in the world. Which is quite funny. And she's obsessed with getting the moon as well, which is quite an interesting, character choice. But I think because you would still have Romeo, he's basically, child genius, what, and like makes robots and makes inventions and all that kind of stuff. He'd still be trying to take over the world, what, because that's just his MO. Yeah, the Night Ninjas, which are basically, you know, their version of Bruce Lee. What, just was a ninjas trying to kick butt. What, and what, then you have the kind of, they're children, but they're like wolves as well. Well, I can never remember like the name of them off the top of my head, but I always looked at it and I was like, how the hell do they get to school in the morning? Because the other ones, they've got like, you know, they take off their masks, they take off their costumes, their powers, they just like the normal kids. And I'm like, one thing I have noticed, you never see the villains in school. Never. Which is quite ironic considering, you know, Romeo is like, you know, a genius. Like he should be in like, you know, an advanced degree school. Should be like a Doctor Doom of that universe.
The thing is, you're saying you don't see the villains, but what are their alter egos? Do you know? Does it go into it? So you might actually see them.
Again, something that could be potentially in my, you know, my dark dystopian fan film that I could make. It could be quite interesting. It's like, I could see it, man. I could see it. I could make this like dystopian kind of PJ Masks franchise. Well, I think we've got it, and I would kill one of them off as well. It needs to have that kind of Uncle Ben style thing to it. But I can always go over my pitch for that for another time, another day. But I actually think that, you know, they would still have superheroes because they still do in that universe. But I think it would be more, you know, Luna Girl, the Egyptian hero, that would be like the kind of main two, and just that aardvark guy, just, you know, but basically the muscle, just trying his best, but still quite dumb. So they would still have they would have the brains and the skill of Luna Girl, and of Luna Girl, they'd have like the mystical elements and the magic for the Egyptian character, and the aardvark is just, you know, muscle. He's basically PJ Masks' Juggernaut.
So basically, what you're saying is, you're saying that they've read Moon Knight comics and like that. Oh, let's add a character like that because Marvel's doing a Moon Knight thing soon. We'll get in there first.
Yeah, I would say so. I think they went down that road and just been like, okay, they've already covered the Norse gods, right? Let's go here. Let's get to this point. So yeah. Well, I know I kind of like dug my own grave with the argument, but at the same time, like the PJ Masks are the brand. They're the thing that probably keeps the villains going, because they always keep kicking their asses, and they're like, we need to beat these guys and girl. We need to take them down. So it could go the other way. It could be that they would all just be like, you know, kind of like Joker style, where with Batman's not around, he's just like, this is boring, this sucks, and off he goes. So Romeo could just be like that type of way of like, there's nothing to do. I don't really find anybody else like a challenge. I'm going to bed. I'm going to study civil engineering. Just something really random like that.
I don't think anybody wants to study that.
Nah.
I looked at this show because I've never watched PJ Masks, I'll be fully honest. But this character looks really cool, Octovella. So
yeah, I think
she's so cute.
Yeah, there's a lot of interesting characters in it as they go on. So you can tell that they are trying, with the limitations that they've probably got from Disney, they are trying to build something, and it has potential. To be for like if they want to do like one for a more for an older audience. And if you want to go down like my essentially like, you know, the snuff film version of PJ Masks that I've got in my head, hit me up.
Technically, if they wanted to, they could make it so that Luna Girl ends up becoming Moon Knight. I don't know if they have written too much of Moon Knight backstory for that, but they could do it that way.
Yeah. Well, that could be a very interesting one. Well, again, like, get right into Disney. Give them these ideas. Well, don't get me wrong, that they would just steal them from you anyway, but at least you could say that you came up with the idea first.
Right. You're like
so I would say that for the universal significance, JD, you certainly held your own. It was a very, very good fight. Like
Thank
you came out swinging. What?
Thank
So yeah, Kev, I feel really sorry for you having to make this call again.
I don't think this one's as tough.
Mm.
Lot of good arguments on both sides, but has to be Powerpuff Girls.
Woo!
I have to say, I would agree.
Just like you said, that if they three weren't there, there's other people that could step in. But if there wasn't any Powerpuff Girls, there's nobody that would step in.
That's true.
Yeah.
So you sort of dug your own grave there.
I'm very good at that. What can I say?
Yeah.
He did. I love like that he kind of like argued on both sides too.
Yeah. I just hit the self-destruct button, essentially. I got too cocky. But in fairness, like the way you presented the argument, what just made me think, actually, she's on to a point here. And then thinking about my own stance, I'm like, actually, wait there. That's probably one of the advantages of the PJ Masks, that they've had more time for continuation and to build, whereas Powerpuff Girls didn't get as much time at the start. So there was limited choices, whereas with this was had more characters and more people where I could go, actually, yeah, that person could fill in, that person could fill in. We could see a turn in this person, whereas Powerpuff Girls was like, you take them out, we're all screwed.
Yeah.
How many episodes exist of the show that you're talking about? It's 79 of the Powerpuff Girls that ever existed.
PJ Masks, I think there's well into 100 now. From what I can see, let me do a quick Google search to see, to make sure I get my facts right, in case there's any, somebody's stupidly put a toddler on and then they know all the answers and want to kill me. So I'll have a wee look, but yeah, I know there's a lot of stuff, mainly for the sofa that it's there we go, 120 episodes and 44 shorts as well.
But let's just point out that in 79 episodes, Powerpuff Girls dominated. Okay, like they didn't just exist. Everybody knew of the Powerpuff Girls, and I think, and I know I'm shooting my own foot, but
you've already won. It's fine.
Part of the reason that I think that they had such ability to be so culturally relevant is you didn't have other choices. Now you have Netflix, Amazon, different apps. You have all sorts of shows and all sorts of diversity that's starting to come out, which is great, but there's all these options, and you didn't have that back then. You had Cartoon Network, you had sometimes Disney, you had like a couple things on ABC Family. Like you didn't have a lot of options. I think you had some Fox, right, for Simpsons and Family Guy. But it's like Powerpuff Girls had the opportunity in 79 episodes to dominate because that's what you watched.
Yeah, definitely. Well, and just because I'm on the Wikipedia, like we've got the Armadillo one that talked about is called Arma Villain. What? Because at first he was like, because sometimes villains can trick him because of his inexperience, causing him to mess up. Actually got it mixed up with the Egyptian one. Like she's actually a samurai, and she's Anu. What her name is? They've also got like Newton Star, like a space boy, from a freak accident, and listed as one of their allies, Santa Claus. Really? That is nuts. Yeah, that's crazy. So so it started in 2015. It's been running for 5 series, and like I said, 120 odd episodes and 44 shorts. So whereas they've had more time to build their roster than the Powerpuff Girls, definitely. But the Powerpuff Girls essentially created the template to carry on.
Yeah,
definitely. Well, so that it's official. Like JD, like you've won your first super fights. How's it feel? And also the first. Did you say you identified as was it gender neutral?
Yeah, I am gender fluid.
Yep, you're the first gender fluid winner as well.
Sweet.
There we go. We are all about representation on Super Ginge.
Yep.
Yay.
Yeah. Well, JD, it's been an absolute pleasure having you on. But obviously, we had to off like when we talked about on that Metal Ginger show. I knew you'd be great for this, and you've not disappointed. You've been absolutely fantastic.
Oh, thank you so much. It was a lot of fun to be on this. So thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, no worries. Like I always say, I'm like the ginger equivalent of hairpiece. Once you've got me, you're stuck with me.
I'm totally down to come back sometime, by the way.
No, definitely. Well, we will be bringing guests back because I'm hoping to do like a kind of battle royale. What with previous guests, I just get them all to like pick a superhero or the one and just have them all go like fight it out. What I mean, Kev, just watch the chaos. We'll see what happens with that. That could be our celebration when we cross the 1K mark, or when we get monetized or whatever. That could be our celebration episode.
That's totally something we should do.
Definitely.
Now, question: would it be? What'd be really interesting is if you pick all of the characters in Smash Brothers, and you have to choose something from Smash Bros, because you have a lot of characters in there to choose from.
Definitely.
Yep.
And you have to, instead of fights, because I'm not very good at fighting in that, although I have managed to knock people out when they're really high. And you have to argue your character's ability.
That could be a good shout.
Yeah.
Look, Kevin and I will have a production meeting at some point to discuss these ideas. And we'll definitely put that one as noted as well. Since we are starting to come up on time, damn you, the Zoom producer. I will say, JD, thank you so much again for coming on. It's been a pleasure having you on. And when we get word about this battle royale, you're definitely invited back.
Sweet, let's do
this. So until next time, my Ginger League, he is Super,
and he is Ginge,
and we are out of here. Bye.
See ya.